From the land of 10,000 lakes and just as many heartaches, welcome to the 301 Show. We're here to celebrate, commiserate, and maybe, just maybe, see a Minnesota team win it all. Whether you're dreaming of a Vikings Super Bowl, reliving the glory days of the Twins, or still recovering from the Timberwolves roller coaster, we've got you covered. This is the 301 Show, where the North remembers and the passion never fades.
Yes, welcome into the 301 show. A little preview for you here to start the show. We've got the Wild's home opener tonight, so we'll be talking about some news that came out either earlier today or late last night that about some roster moves that they made. Also, a contract extension that was signed that I may have missed last episode. It was, again, that news was announced right around when I was recording last week. I can't remember if it came out before, but we will talk about that. Then the Timberwolves played their first preseason game. Not going to spend too much time on them because there's been no real big news that has come out. I'm assuming the next big news type deal will be some sort of update on the ownership fiasco going on between Glenn Taylor and then Mark Laurie and A-Rod, but we'll touch on their first preseason game a little bit. Then the Vikings get a big win this last Sunday. They also broke a record. They're the only team to do this so far this season. So we will talk about that. And then finally, the biggest news of the week. There are two big things for the Twins. So we will end with the Twins this week. Usually we end with the Vikings. But this week, since the biggest news is coming out of Target Field, we will talk about them at the end of this episode. All right, so the Wild. Again, as I'm recording this on Thursday, and so the home opener is in just a few hours here tonight, as Dean Evison is making his return here to the state of hockey after getting fired last season. There was some roster movement news that came out. I did not see why exactly, but I'm assuming it's injury. Declan Chisholm is unavailable to play tonight. My guess is that he was slotted in on that bottom pair, the bottom six defensive pair. And instead of just having John Merrill step in immediately, they recalled Damian Hunt to the team. Now, that's not to say that John Merrill won't play. He very well could play still. But they do recall Damian Hunt to have that seventh defenseman on the team. So it looks like the top four defensemen will just stay the same, with Faber and Brodin being your top two. Then Middleton and Spurgeon being your middle two defensemen. And then the bottom will be Zach Bogosian and either Merrill or Hunt. My guess is that they will go with Hunt tonight. But with that recallment, the bringing Damian Hunt up, someone has to go down. And on the short end of that stick was goaltender Jesper Wallstedt. So he did make the team out of camp, and now they are sending him down. And again, I'm going to assume that they are sending him down solely to open a roster spot, and he will be back up when Chisholm is available. They don't want to put Chisholm on the any type of injured reserve list, or that would force him to stay away from the team for a set amount of time, at least just yet. They might do that at some point. But for now, it was easier to send down Wallstedt and just bring up Hunt. Now, speaking of Jesper Wallstedt, he was the one that signed a contract extension, which I absolutely love. That is an extension that will kick in next season. So he has one more year left on his current deal before this contract extension kicks in. It is a 2-year deal worth $4.4 million. So he's getting paid $2.2 million per year on AAV. And the reason I absolutely love this, outside of my just man crush I have on Wallstedt, I think getting him for that cheap for the next 2 years while he is growing and developing is massive, because then he will be, you weren't going to get him for longer than that. I was surprised they got him for even 2 years instead of just one year, and then his camp says, no, let us be in the NHL for this year and next year, and then we want a big boy contract after that. The Bill Guerin was able to get him down for 2 years, maybe a little bit more expensive than Guerin would have liked initially, but they got him for 2 years on a cheaper deal, and now they have some more wiggle room for the next couple years where they can now go sign the guy that's the most important player in franchise history, Kirill Kaprizov, before they have to re-sign their goaltender, and they can figure out what they want to do with Wallstedt based off of how much money they have available after signing Kaprizov. So I do really like this deal, and we will see exactly how much he gets after this. But after this 2-year extension is over, but I really like it for now. All right, so this last segment here for the Rinkside Rundown, we are going to start this new segment for each. It's a sub-segment in each sports segment here. And I will have each episode 3 predictions for each team, or I should say each sport at least, in each sports segment. And I will be tracking them and seeing how well I do over the course of, a year or however long we go with this. I just want to keep track of them and see how well I can do with some of these predictions. And I want to give a huge shout out to the guys over at Score North. I will link their latest 2 episodes on their predictions. I got the at least general idea of tracking predictions and making predictions and keeping track of them from the guys over at Score North. I did make some changes to it, put my own spin on it because I am only one person. I can't do it exactly the way they do it. So, yeah, big shout out to those guys. And yeah, that's the way it's going to work here, is just 3 per sport. And then we will go over it each week before I make the new predictions. We'll go over how I did the previous week, if any of them have either been proven true or proven false. So we will dive into the hockey predictions here first. All 3 of them, because the Wild are starting tonight, all 3 of them are based on the Minnesota Wild. Don't have any Frost predictions here right now. But my first prediction is the Wild will win their home opener game against the Blue Jackets in overtime. So if they go to a shootout, if they win it in regulation, if they lose at all, this prediction is wrong. It has to be an overtime win. And off the record, I think it's Joel Eriksson Ek that gets the overtime winner. If it's somebody else, that doesn't matter. My official prediction is that they will win specifically in overtime. My second prediction here is that Matthew Boldy will score the first goal for the Wild this season. Whether that is tonight, this is, again, separate from the first prediction. So regardless of they might get shut out tonight, but regardless of when that first goal comes, Matt Boldy will be the goal scorer for that first goal. And then between now, the first game of the year, and the end of the month of October, so October 31st, the Wild goaltenders will have at least one shutout. So they'll have one shutout in the month of October. And again, it could be more, um, and it only needs to be one of the two of them. So between Fleury and Gustafson, and then maybe Wallstedt if he gets any time here, but one of the Wild goaltenders will have at least one shutout in the month of October. All right, now we find ourselves here in the Wolves' Den. We will talk here about the preseason game that happened last Friday. The Wolves were in Los Angeles playing against Bronny Jr. and the Lakers. The Wolves did go on to win 124 to 107. And I just wanted to highlight three guys here. First guy, two of them are newcomers, and one guy is a returner. So the two newcomers, first one is Dante DiVincenzo. He played 9 minutes and 54 seconds in the first half. May even have just been the first quarter, but he played 9 minutes and 54 seconds. He put up 11 points. He put up 11 points. He was 4 for 4 from the field, and he was 3 for 3 from beyond the 3-point line. He also had 3 rebounds in under 10 minutes. That was his stat line. And again, I understand he's not playing against, the Lakers' best players. LeBron did not play. AD, I don't think he really played at all, but like they are not playing their best players either at all or very much in the preseason. But still, you like to see that he can come in and take control of a game like that. And obviously, he's not going to have to be asked to do it that much this year, with Ant being the one that is being asked to take control of games. But it is still nice to see him do that in a preseason game. The other newcomer I want to talk about is the rookie, Rob Dillingham. Dilly. He put up 21 points, and he was 9 of 20 from the field. He also had 4 assists, and that was in 24 and a half minutes of playing time. So again, in the rookie's first, non-summer league action, where there are, some better players playing there are better players playing in the preseason than the G League, the summer league. So he still put up a very good stat line, and it's kind of champagne problems here for Conley and Finch, where they have all these guys that I think deserve to get significant amount of playing time, but it's just, where do you get them in? Like, they have almost an embarrassment of riches at this point. So he played really well. And then last guy I want to talk about, the returner, had his own time based named after him. It was Garzage time. I want to talk about Luka Garza. Definitely not Garzage time in the first preseason game. He played 22 minutes and 2 seconds, put up 20 points, was 7 of 13 from the field, and he pulled down 9 rebounds. So I think, again, they're not playing against better talent that you would see on a normal night in the NBA regular season. But I do want to see him a little bit more. But he's probably going to be one of those guys that gets pushed to the bench, and again, only comes in, maybe not only, but really only comes in during Garzage time. So that was still good to see out of all 3 of those guys here in the preseason. Gives me hope for their regular season, at least. at least some of it. Um, but yeah, that's all I really have about that game. Again, kind of a slow week for the Timberwolves. Um, the Lynx are obviously in the WNBA finals, and I may have a prediction here about them coming up shortly, but I have not really paid attention to the Lynx. I will do that more this week. I'll break down the WNBA finals, all the games that have happened between now and next week's episode. But for now, I can't speak on them because I would just be, talking out of my butt. I haven't watched them. So I do apologize to Lynx fans for that. But let's go on to predictions right now. I've got two about the Timberwolves and one about the Lynx. Um, the first one here for the Timberwolves is they will go on a 10 plus game winning streak at some point this season, this upcoming season. And no, preseason does not count, but I will count regular season and postseason. So if they end the season on a 9 game winning streak and then win the first game of the postseason, that counts. In my mind, that counts. If it matters towards your regular season standings or your postseason advancement, I want this to count. So at some point this year, they will go on a 10 plus game winning streak. Second prediction is that Anthony Edwards will finish at least in the top 3 in MVP voting or in the regular season, or he will win finals MVP, or both. We'll say and or. I want, yeah, he will either be one of the 3 nominated for the MVP, because that's how they do that, is just the top 3 vote getters. But when they announce the nominees, they already know who the winner is. So he will either be one of the 3 nominees and or he will win finals MVP. And then the Lynx, my Lynx prediction here is that they will beat the New York Liberty in exactly 4 games. So they will not they will win the series 3-1. It's a best of 5 series. They will win 3-1. All right, we're going across the pond now for our Nordic Report. The Vikings played in London against the New York Jets. Again, like we said last week, a bit of a revenge game for both quarterbacks. But the revenge game ended up being a bit overhyped as neither offense looked really that good. Um, it was more the defenses were coming to play, and I should say the defenses and the referees were coming to play. And I just want to go over um, a little QB comparison here between Rodgers and Darnold. So Sam Darnold went 14 for 31. He was under 50% completion percentage. He threw for 179 yards, no touchdowns, one interception. He got sacked 4 times for a loss of a combined 32 yards and had a 50.6 passer rating. Well, he carried it 5 times for 11 yards for a 2.2 average, which he did then fumble it, and that went for a lost fumble. Well, Rodgers on the other side went 29 of 54, so again, right around that 50% there, and slightly over 50%. He went for 244 yards, 2 touchdowns. He threw 3 interceptions and then got sacked 3 times for a loss of 26 yards, and had a 54.9 passer rating. Well, he didn't have any rushing attempts, so his carries are 0, yards are 0, obviously then for a 0 average, but he did fumble it, but was recovered by the Jets. Now, I just bring this up because the other aspects of the game were way better for each team in this game across the pond. But I will say I'm not giving it I'm not giving Sam Darnold's performance here like too much thought because he did get knocked down again and very much looked a lot different after he got hurt. Um, but then Aaron Jones got hurt, and the offense looked entirely different after that too. And it wasn't really a good offensive game all around because then KOC was seemingly calling plays different because Ty Chandler wasn't Ty Chandler is not fully there yet to be your kind of like bell cow running back. And he's good to come in every once in a while to give Jones some rest. But Jones is he's far better at the yards after contact and better at pass blocking versus Ty Chandler. And that was very clearly like missed once Jones did get hurt in that game and had to come out. So I will say I do very much, thank the Lord for the bye week coming this week. Because the Vikings do have a couple of key players that are decently banged up, specifically on their offense too, and they will yeah, it's just nice to have the extra week in there to get those guys more rest and fully or closer to full health. I don't think in the season anybody in the NFL is at 100% health outside of week 1. Um so yeah, but then the defense played phenomenally in that game. Um but I do want to give out this is a new segment to a new sub segment in the as long as the Vikings are playing games. I want to give out a game ball for every um, game. So basically, who do I think was the best player on the field for the Vikings? So this will not be, coaches. You could argue that, based off of this week, it should have been Brian Flores if we were giving it to anybody. But I'm going just players. Is just people that actually played a snap in the game. And obviously, if you only play one snap, I'm probably not going to give the ball to you. Unless you're, Will Reichert that somehow, drills one kick and it ends up being like, a 60-plus yarder, and that's the only snap he plays for a game, like a walk-off field goal or something. That is probably the only way I'd give out a game ball for a one-snap player. But I have 2 honorable mentions for this game, and then I will let you know who my game ball is going to. So my second honorable mention, basically finishing in 3rd place for this, is Justin Jefferson. I know it may sound weird after I was just ripping the offense there, but Justin Jefferson finished with 6 receptions and 92 receiving yards. And this is his first game all year without a touchdown. But this to me is the like a not like the classic Justin Jefferson game, but a game where he made an impact on the field almost more when he wasn't being targeted because he was taking, Sauce Gardner away from the other playmakers on the offense. Now those guys weren't actually making the plays when the better defenders were covering him. So that definitely needs to be cleaned up in this self-scout bye week. But he is my number 3 second second honorable mention. Now my top honorable mention is Andrew Van Ginkel. He had one tackle, one quarterback hit, and he had the pick six. And he just proved that he was, arguably one of, if not the best free agent signings this offseason. I think I'm going to say he was the best for um, the Vikings. Yes, over, Cashman, over Grenard, over Shaq Griffin, or um, Gilmore, Stephon Gilmore, or even over Aaron Jones or Sam Darnold. I'm giving it to Van Ginkel as the best free agent signing for the Vikings. Again, just this past offseason. Um, the pressure he is putting on quarterbacks is absolutely phenomenal so far this year. So he gets my number 2. He finishes in second place for me. And number 1, mentioned him already, kind of gave it away earlier, but I have Will Reichert getting my game ball today. He was 3 for 3 on field goals, 2 for 2 on extra points. He was also on his field goals. 2 of his field goals were from 50 plus yards, and he scored 9 points. He scored 11 points. They would not have won that game, or even the game. I don't think the game before that without Will Reichert. So he is honestly, I don't think it's a stretch to say this. He is the only bright spot on the special team so far this year. Like, it is, Will Reichert and everybody else on special teams. Like, the punt units, both punt and, or the punt and kickoff units, and then the um, return units have not been great this year. They just haven't. Um, but the one special teams unit that has been great are the extra point and field goal units, which are basically just the same unit. Um, but yeah, so my first game ball of the season, I know it's coming in week 5, but my first game ball of the season will go to Will Reichert. Now, let's move on to the season rankings here. We'll be quick with these, but I just want to give you an update on where the offense, defense, and special teams are sitting at. The offense is slipping. They're looking more like a top 10 offense now, not a top 5 offense, but they are 17th in total or not pass yards, in total yards per game at 323.2. Points per game, they are 6th. So again, that goes to the defense is setting them up in great field position so they don't have as far to get down the field. They're scoring 27.8 points per game. On third down, they are 20 of 46 for 40.7%. That is tied for 13th. And on fourth down, they are 2 for 4 now. I think they scored on their first, or converted on their first 2 fourth down attempts, and then have not converted on their second 2. So they're sitting at 50%. Again, still super small sample size for the Vikings. Other teams have gone for it more. So other teams, and then there's obviously other teams then to do it way less, but they are right now percentage-wise tied for 15th. And all of my rankings are based, or like my third and fourth down rankings are based off of the percentage, not how many makes or conversions there are. Defense, they are 16th in yards per game at 330.2. So yeah, 16th in the league. And then they are 15.2. They're letting up 15.2 points per game, which is 4th in the entire league. So teams may drive on them, but they are, stepping up when it matters. Their opponents' third down opponents are converting on third down 31% of the time, which is good for 5th in the league. They are teams are 22 for 71 on the Vikings defense this year. And then on fourth down, teams have gone for it 13 times and only converted 4 for a percentage of 30.8%, which is good for 7th in the entire league. So again, the defense is absolutely stepping up when it matters the most. On third and fourth downs, in the red zone when they're about to score on the Vikings half of the field, they are like really just stopping that defense. Now special teams, again, Will Reichert is just perfect so far. He is 9 for 9 on the field goal, 16 for 16 on the extra point, and he is now tied for 4th for the longest field goal make in the league, and that is still the 58-yarder he hit against the Houston Texans. So now, real quick before we end the Nordic Report here, we got to go over the 3 predictions here for the Vikings. So these are more long-term predictions, again, because the Vikings don't have a game this upcoming week. So these are more long-term predictions. The first one, I would have called myself crazy for predicting this before the season, but now it actually not only looks, viable, possible, but it looks probable at this point. My prediction is the Vikings will win double-digit games this season. So they will win 10 or more games this season. Second prediction is Sam Darnold will win Comeback Player of the Year and will receive multiple first-place votes for MVP. We'll see that when they usually release the at least, I think it's top 10 or top 15 maybe for each award, or for sure MVP, the votes that they get. So we will, on that note, we will see at least 2 first place votes for Sam Darnold. And then my third and final prediction here for the Nordic Report is that both TJ Hawkinson and Aaron Jones will be playing in Week 7 against the Detroit Lions. So there you go. Again, double-digit wins. Sam Darnold for Comeback Player of the Year and will receive first place votes for the MVP. And then both TJ Hawkinson and Aaron Jones will play in Week 7. All right, now back over at Target Field. As we get into the biggest announcements here from the last week for any of these Minnesota sports teams. The first one, there is a new TV deal in place for the Twins. The Twins have partnered with the MLB to help put this on. There will be 2 options. The first one is, the traditional TV stations will have games. I don't know if they've announced where they're going, which channel they are going for that. So I think we have to wait and see on that exactly. My guess is that they are not going back to Bally Sports North. But there is also a direct-to-consumer option on what they are calling Twins TV. And that will be for approximately 150 games this year. The games that don't count are the nationally televised games. That's where you get the 12-game discrepancy here. Is nationally televised, and those are the games that are on Fox or Apple TV or Fox Sports 1. And I don't think they had any on ESPN last year, but like on Sunday Night Baseball. But if they did, that game would not be on the local channel. So I think this is great. The Twins they need more options here for getting eyeballs on this this team. Um, and the streaming service specifically is a fantastic way to do this because baseball is becoming um, more and more of like a niche sport, like sport of the past, like older generation sport. So I think this, and part of it is because so many people like my age and like early 20s college students, high school students, like we don't want to pay for like cable to have to watch the Twins, which Bally Sports did not have that option. Um, in the past, they retained that option of the streaming, so you had to watch. You had to have some sort of cable or satellite option to watch Twins games, or you have to go there in person. Um, so having this streaming service is great to catch that younger audience. Um, Now the price for this streaming option has not been confirmed yet, but the both the Colorado Rockies and the San Diego Padres did something similar to this for this past season, and um, their prices were it was you could either do the monthly rate of $19.99 per month or the season long rate of $99.99 for the entire season. Um, some more good news out of this is that um, there are two people that are confirmed to be back, and that is Corey Provis, the play-by-play announcer, and Justin Morneau. So those guys will be back for sure next year. We will see exactly who else comes back. I'm hoping for some of those, former players up in the booth with Corey Provis. I thought the um, having more players with different perspectives on things was like very good, um, and not just having one former player on to be there the entire time. Um, but yeah, so that's great news to start out with for the Twins. Now, the second biggest news that dropped earlier today, again, I'm recording this on Thursday, October 10th. So earlier today, it was announced that the Polad family are exploring options to sell the team, and they were quoted as saying they put out a statement. Spokesperson for the family said, after months of thoughtful consideration, our family has reached a decision this summer to explore selling the Twins. As we enter the next phase of this process, the time is right to make this decision public. So again, they are exploring it for now. Maybe they'll say, you know, um, like, hey, the market isn't where we want it to be. I think it kind of is. Um, I think if they were going to sell the team, they probably should have sold it at a high after last season. Um, but I have mixed emotions on this. And yes, that is ironic after what I was talking about last week. I am glad that they are selling the team. I don't want the Polads to be the owners of this team anymore, but just and that is solely based off of the whole fiasco that has happened in the last 12 months, not even 12 months, the last 10 months at this point, uh 10 and a half months, whatever it was, uh from them cutting payroll last year, announcing that they were going to cut payroll at the end of last season, to them not making any moves at the deadlines or not allowing any moves to be made at the deadline because of the cut payroll, them just taking a botch deal with Valley Sports, and just everything. It seemed like everything they did over the last 11 months just was almost like backfired to like a pie in the face situation. And it just, it's, I'm glad to see them go, but I don't want this to be sold to an owner that's more like, John Fisher, that is just so cheap out in Oakland that he, you know, he wanted to move the team, so he made he's stopped the upkeep on the Oakland Coliseum and wouldn't pay for player. Like, that sounds miserable. Like, I'd rather have what we have now than that, because that, like, I feel so bad for athletics fans. Like, it is not athletics fans' fault, even though John Fisher was trying to paint it that way of, oh, we're not getting anybody. You're getting people. You are getting people when you put a good product on the field. Um, but yeah, I'm worried that the Twins would sell to an owner or a group like that. I really hope they don't, but time will tell. We don't know. We don't have any front runners of who it would be as of right now, who the new owners would be as of right now. But again, I am really just hoping that it is much improved from what we've had um, with the Pohlats. Now, I do want to go over just some statistics here about the Pohlads' tenure. So the Pohlads bought the Twins 40 years ago in 1984. They bought it. The family bought it for $44 million. Today, it is worth 1.5 to $2 billion today. So massive ROI on that for the Pohlads. Congratulations there. They were the ownership group, the ownership family, when the Twins won the World Series in 87 and 91. So great for them. But the problem is that they were, obviously, like I said, the owners for 40 years. They only made the playoffs 12 times. They had a regular season record of 3,187 wins and 3,124 losses. So 63 more wins than losses. But their playoff record, that was their regular season record. Their playoff record, they won 24 games and lost 38. So they only made the playoffs 12 times. 2 of those, they won the World Series. So let's take those 2 out. Those 2 series, they went 8-4 in both of those years. So they went 16-8 in both of those seasons. So outside of those two seasons where they won the World Series, they only had 8 playoff wins. 8 in their tenure. They were 8-30 outside of 87 and 91 in the playoffs. That is brutal. That is absolutely atrocious. And then that's not to mention having the longest, playoff losing streak in the MLB. Like, they set a record for that. It was an 18-game playoff losing streak. Like, my up until last year, my younger brother had not seen the Twins win a playoff game. Not a playoff series, a playoff game. That is absolutely embarrassing for the Pohlats. But people, new stadium. Yeah, Target Field is great. Target Field might be one of the most underrated stadiums in the entirety of Major League Baseball. But the thing, like, I would rather win it once every 5 years at the Oakland Coliseum or Tropicana Field in Tampa Bay than do what the Twins have been doing in Target Field. Like, again, I have not seen a major men's championship in my lifetime. Those are Those are like four of my favorite teams. I haven't seen them win. So I just want someone in here, the owner in the owners that care more about winning than profits. Remember, Joe Polad's last press conference was, "We have a business to run. We need to turn a profit on our business. This is a business, but this is a different type of business. You guys are multi-billionaires that are running this team like it's your investment banking club, and you only care about profits. Like, yes, the the fans will show up when you put a better product on the field. That is what Polad said, 100%. But this city cares about the team. Like, the three of the top four highest attended seasons in Twins history were 2010, which they made the playoffs. That was the first year at Target Field. They made the playoffs that year. Then it was 2011, again, second year at Target Field. So the shine had worn off a little bit, but people were still excited. The Twins were awful that year. And then number four, there was a year in the 90s. I can't remember exactly which one it is, but the year in the 90s was number three. Number four was 2012. They were awful in 2011 and 2012. The the stadium not being full for the last month of this season was not due to the record. And as much as I want it to be that, it wasn't. Like, it was, people are fed up with the poll ads and don't want to give them their money anymore. And hopefully they won't. Now, I don't want I don't want the Twins, to turn into their neighbors of what's, the Timberwolves are now seeming like, children of divorce trying to pick between the which parent they want to go to, and it's like that's just as bad. That's almost worse. Like, I hope we find a new owner soon and just move on with this as quickly as we can, and that the new owners are willing to actually spend money. On that note, let's end on a little bit of a positive note. Although now remembering what I predicted here, I do have a negative prediction here for the Twins. We will start with that one and then end with the kind of neutral one, and then the positive one will come last. So the negative prediction here for the Twins, and again, these are longer term because the Twins are in the off season right now. So, first one is, one of these following players will not be back for the 2025 season: Carlos Correa, Royce Lewis, Ryan Jeffers, Griffin Jacks, and Johan Duran. At least, I should say this, at least one of those players will not be back for the 2025 season. I think it's probably the easiest for it to be one of the last four, because all four of those players are going to arbitration this year. So I think it's easier to, get rid of that way. Get rid of one of them that way than Carlos Correa, who is making, I think, $37 million next season. All right, so now the neutral one, the new owner or ownership group will not have lived in, none of the owners, if it is an ownership group, so none of the owners or the singular owner will have lived in or gone to a college in the state of Minnesota prior to buying the team or the discussions to buy the team. So I don't want them to, we went to the University of Minnesota for a year or a semester and then dropped out. That's wrong. My prediction would be wrong if it was that. if that happened. So we will get an outside ownership group coming in, like A-Rod and Mark Laurie for the Timberwolves. Like, yes, A-Rod technically lived here when he was playing 3-game series here when he was playing for the Yankees, the Rangers, but that doesn't count. That's visiting here. That's not living here. So they will not have lived or attended college in the state of Minnesota. Final prediction, and this is the positive one. So Pablo Lopez and or Bailey Ober will be at least one of those two will be on the Twins next year and receive Cy Young Award votes for the 2025 season. So they will get Cy Young Award votes as a member of the Minnesota Twins. All right, so that is all I have for this episode. I do thank you for joining us, and I do ask you hit that subscribe button down there. Leave any suggestions you have in the comment section of what we should talk about next week. Any teams you want me to cover, any sporting events across the more than just the Minnesota teams. I will try to cover every Minnesota team in every podcast each week. Again, I'm going to try to make predictions about each sport at least each week and have it be about Minnesota sports teams. Again, massive shout out to the Score North guys. Again, they will be linked down below for that prediction idea. So yes, we do thank you, and we will see you next time.